Welcome back. In the previous episode, we checked the course overview if this is the right course, and if you think this is the right course for you, let's jump in. The first chapter, if we go over here, is understanding the data structures. What we are going to learn is the JSON data structure. We're going to use code node. We're going to go a little bit deep dive into code node into this thing, and we're going to transform the data using the split and aggregate node. So how do we do that? We are going to create an object in JSON, so if you see over here, this is nothing but a JSON object, anything within a curly bracket. And this is the key, this is the value. Every JSON thing can work in a key value pair. Even if you just have like name and you don't have this, it will still be a valid JSON object with one key and value, one data item. And in this, there are two. There is a name and a color. So you can have like an object like a human being. It has hair, nails, plus. So you can create an entire object. It is a part of like object-oriented programming if you are coming from the programming background. And all the data structures that we use in n8n, they are going to be used more on ETL tool kind. I started my entire career as an ETL architect. I was working as an Informatica Power Center administrator and a developer, so I know a bit about ETL tools. So extract, transform, and load. What is extract? Extract is nothing but getting the data from something, either an HTTP or database or something. Transforming is like, for example, if you got first name and last name, the full name will be first name plus last name. That's the transformation. You transform the data from what it came in. And load is nothing but loading into another database or sending it to something, creating a report, sending it to a data model or a data warehouse. That's the process in a nutshell. And what are we transforming? The data. The data can come in SQL, table, XML, HTML, or JSON. In this case, we are dealing with JSON objects. So there are different types of data types. We're going to look into it, but this is the most basic data type. There are data types like strings, booleans. We'll look into it. And this is nothing but an array. So this is the structure of the JSON. We'll go into the practical. You'll understand a little bit more on this. So you can go through this video. Darshil has given a very good idea on how to do that, but I'm going to go through it regardless. So let's go back. We are going to create a new folder. This was our folder for level 1. Let's do n8n level 2 cert. All right, let's head into it. Let's create our first workflow. And I'm not going to go through the basics of everything. You can watch level 1 certification for that. And we're going to get started. So the first thing, I have another workflow over here from which I'm going to copy so that we do not waste a lot of time. All right. So if you guys don't know, this is a canvas. We're going to name this as exercises. All right. And this is the first exercise. This is the canvas. All right. So this is the sticky note. We are just naming things. It does not do anything. This is the trigger node. This is where the workflow starts executing, and it executes from left to right, top to bottom. It means that when I execute this, it will. So if I execute this workflow, it's running. It will execute this first, and then it will go to the bottom one. So save it. It's saved. So this is what you need to know. What are we going to do in this code node? We are going to create an array of objects named my contacts, and well, we'll look into it. So this is your standard node. This is nothing but the trigger to start it. So let's see what this node is doing. All right. So this is exactly the node that documentation is asking us to create, or something similar. So what we have done is we have this JavaScript node. If you don't know, you can always ask ChatGPT to tell you what this is doing. So for example, if I copy paste this and if I go to I'm going to say ChatGPT, please explain this code to me. Wait, we did not give it the code, so we give it this code. It's going to explain the code, so it will explain you. What I usually do is, rather than this, I like put comments in front of each line of code to explain what it's doing. That way I can take that excuse me, I can take that code and I can put it back. So let's see if that works. I will take it and we'll put it over here, execute. It's still giving me the same output. However, now I have my own assistant or guide or explainer which tells what this code is doing. So let's go step by step. What is it doing? It's creating a variable named my context. This is the variable. Variable is nothing but something that changes values. Constant is something which will keep the value same throughout the run of the program. So variable my context, this is the first object. So anything inside the curly brackets, it's the object, it's a JSON object. All right, and there we are creating this name. This is the key, this is the name of the content, and this is the value. So the value for this key is Alice, and we have created another object which is a nested object, kind of object inside an object, and it has two values, so we can do that as well. And this is nothing but, so inside this we have two emails. So we have a personal work, so you can create nested objects as well. Similarly, there is a second object now. It's the first object is done. This is for Alice and this is for Bob. So we have created, and what we are doing is we are returning the entire variable called as my contacts. So when we execute this step over here, we can see the data. So we see the data for Alice, we see the data for Bob. It's separated. You can see it in the schema, but it only shows one object table. It will show you both the objects. This is more user friendly, and this is JSON object. It's pretty similar to what, we just created the data inside the code node, and it's spreading out the same thing. So this is the JSON field. Whichever one you prefer, please do that. There is no best practice that you should only use table or JSON. It's all for your convenience. So, but this is more readable. Over here, we used code node to create our own dummy data, right? But we can read it from a different source as well, and we'll see that later on. Now, let's see. This was the code node given to us by n8n, but we are going to go a level ahead than that. I'm going to explain you different types of data sets or data types there are in n8n and how to use them. So I have enhanced that variable context with few things, and I have named the data type so that you understand what it is. In this node, we are creating an object. Inside there is a JSON object, which is, so basically this is an array. Anything in the square brackets is an array. So we have array of objects over here. So the first object over here is JSON. Now, there is one data type called as string, and that's why anything which has alphabets or alphanumeric alphabets and numbers like Alice 1, 2, it will be string. It's a string. So I can change the name over here. String. Anything without quotation marks, that is a number. All right. Numbers, I don't know how many bytes this holds, but I hope it's a long, which can hold a pretty long number, but I have not tested that out yet, maybe someday. Boolean, it's either true or false, whether we are right or wrong, that kind of Boolean stuff. And there is another object called as object. So in this case, as I said, this was another object. Anything in curly brackets or braces is an object. We created another object which has two emails, right? AP is nothing but Alice's personal and Alice's work email. I just named that. And the last but not the least is an array. Anything inside a square bracket is an array. So my contacts is also an array. And so it's pretty simple to understand because it's key value pair. However, what makes it complex is that you can have nested objects. So you can have an array inside an array, or you can have objects inside objects, and objects inside arrays. So that's what makes it complicated and look pretty intimidating at first, but once you understand the basic structure, it's pretty simple to understand. And so that's all. I would suggest that you add new fields over here. Like for example, if we add like one more field over here, is like new field, new string value. You can name it anything. New field value. Oh, why is it giving me XYZ? All right, and let's say it is a new string. All right, and if I execute this step, now we will get another one over here. So if we type on the right, we get another variable which is called as new string, right? If I delete, and if you notice, it's not structured. It's like unstructured data types, like what you see. It's not like Oracle or DB2. It's unstructured database. The structure can change. Over here, there is a field over here, but over here, there is no data in that field. So kind of DynamoDB type of stuff, So you can, the structure, you can have more fields for one object, but less fields for another one. It's completely flexible. I'm going to remove this just for consistency's sake. And that's how you get it. So this is the object that we created. And we created this object. We are not reading it from somewhere. We're just using code node to generate this data on the fly as such. So you can hard code it. This is hard coded kind of, if you want to read it dynamically, then you have to read it from a database or Excel sheet or anywhere basically. Now, how to refer to this data, right? To show that I have used a set node over here. You can just create another set node over here, call a set node, add a field. Let's run this data. Then I'll go to the next one, which is our edit field over here. You can name whatever you want, like the first person name is Alice, and that's how you create the set node, right? So let's see how are we going to extract the fields. Now, if you did not run it previously, you can run it this way as well. All right. I have created this set node so that you understand how to extract each and every type of field and different ways you can extract that. The first way is string one. You can literally, if I delete this, if you can literally drag drop and you get string name, which is nothing but anything inside this is a JavaScript. So anything with a single curly bracket, that was JSON object. However, when you are using expressions like a programming term, then double it basically extracts a value out of that, like a $sign. Dollar is also used in Unix, Linux, so it's similar way, but over here it's with double braces. So in double curly braces, we put JSON. JSON is nothing but this JSON object which is coming in, and we will call it, we will extract the string name from there. So just to give you another example, like I can do $JSON dot. So if you see, I can refer to any of these. I can refer to array, boolean, number, anything, right? And there are some other methods as well. We are not going to go into methods right now, but just to understand, simply in order to refer to one of these variables, you can use the JSON object. And once you press dot, it will give you, just like Java, JavaScript is from Java. So you can choose anything. And if you see boolean mail, so I can put anything anywhere. So you can either type it yourself the way I did it, and the value of this boolean mail is true, or you can just drag and drop. There are both ways to do that. String 2. Now, if you see over here, I have used JSON or string name. However, The real thing is this whole thing is nothing but input. If you see over here, you can refer the object the same way as well. So input, this is the item, input.item.json.string name. So I'll show you again. If you go dollar input, this is my input. In there, I have an item. In that, I have this JSON object. Now, everything after that is similar to this one. So basically, n8n helps us by giving this so that we don't have to give it again and again, and we just use JSON.string name. So, but you are feel free to use whatever you want, and I'll do an example again, and then I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, or I can use string name and I'll get the same ls1. So that's how you can use this format or you can use this format. You're absolutely right. Don't have to worry about it. I use this one because it's much simpler. It's more readable, but I just wanted to show you how it looks. Boolean male. So over here, even though it says Boolean male, I have given it number and number. So we are going to change it to like phone number. This is how you can rename your objects. This is nothing but my object. You can name it whatever you want, and that will update over here. Once you execute the step, you see it became my object, it became phone number, this became string 1, string 2. I can name it as like name, becomes name. Perfect. So now it is name. Alrighty, so this is the second one. Now the array. So we're done with let's create another object. I don't think I have Boolean over here, right? I don't have Boolean over here. So I'm going to create another field called as Boolean, my bool, and this is the data. So these are the data types that we saw: string, number, Boolean, array, and object. And that's why I took all of those. So you're going to say true or false. We need an expression because we're getting the value from here, and that is over here. So we got true. So there are two things when you create a field. It's a fixed field. I can just drop a fixed field, and so whenever there is a data which is coming in dynamically, it will turn into an expression automatically. So that's another thing that n8n has done well, so that it's more user friendly. Alrighty, now if we execute this step, we should have another my boo, which is true. Alrighty. Now phone number, my object is object. Now what is this object? Object, as we said, it's just a JSON object, my JSON object, to make it easier for you guys to understand. My JSON object, in this we are getting 2 emails. Okay. However, sometimes it will be that you need to separate this out inside the edit node. We'll see how to separate these out inside the code node as well later on. However, for now, if you want to separate or split this or extract this data from the object, how do you do that? So over here, if you see JSON.object.personal. So how do we do that? I'll show you. I always have a habit of doing this myself so that I get used to it. So JSON, what are we trying to find out? We need this object email. So we get object email dot. Once we do dot, we'll see all the valid values. So in case if I need to work over here, so this is going to change to AW now. AW. So Alice's work email. That is how you're going to reference. So over here, I'm going to reference the personal one. If I execute it, you see the personal email over here. That's how you can reference individual items inside an object, which is inside another object, which is JSON, which is inside another object, which is input. So the hierarchy, you get the point. You can have a lot of nested objects. And the last but not the least is array. If you see over here, if I give like a complete array, then I'm going to get all the values in one shot. However, the way you reference an object in an array is a little bit different. It's a little bit different. The first value, it starts with 0. If you have worked with any kind of programming tool, it's So any array, it starts with 0, then 1, like pointers, everything. It starts with 0, 1, 2, 3. So the first object or the first item is always going to be 0. So we refer it using JSON.arrayExample inside this. So I'll try to put it so that you understand. Again, JSON dot. Now we want array. And how do we refer to? We refer to it, see, if you see over here, it's inside the square bracket. So we put square bracket, 0, boom, we got the first. If you put 2, boom, we got the second one. That's how you can refer individual items in an array. So it's different when it is an object, it's a dot notation. If you see over here, it's a dot object email dot personal notation. And when it is an array, it's inside a square bracket. So subtle difference, but very important, because once you get a lot of data, then you'll be like, oh, I used a dot last time, it worked, why is it not working right now? Because it was an object, and sometimes you use square brackets, and why did I use that? Because it was an array. All right, so with that said, we are done with this node. Let's go back. What is it asking? It asks us to create this variables. It explained everything over here. We're going to go through this node pretty shortly. And it is asking us to create these data sets. We created data sets. We went above and beyond. We created one data set which has each and every data type that n8n supports. After that, we went through the key value pairs. If you see these, the items like input, then items like JSON, this is what the input is coming through. And then each JSON object, there could be multiple JSON objects, or there could be JSON objects inside JSON objects. This is what it is, and this is the key value at the most basic. Everything is key value. This is key value. On top of that, this is key value, and value can be an object itself or an array, or it's you know, that's what makes it complicated. So this is another example. Darshil is giving example over here, or he's explaining how to do that, but I think I have done a pretty decent job. But if you think I'm not the good trainer, then you can go and check Darshil's as well. He's pretty good. All right, you can copy paste this code over here, but they're not given like workflows. That's why I'm going to give you the JSONs with this. Now, the next exercise is we're going to use code node to extract the data. So in this workflow, if you see, we used our edit fields to get the data out, right? Next, we're going to use code node. So for that, what I'm going to do, I have another snippet. In order to save time, we are going to use this snippet. Now, let's see how we are going to do this. So, alrighty. This was one way of doing this. Now I'm going to connect this directly over here. You can do that, no worries. What is this doing? If you remember, $input.all is nothing but our all data that is coming through. So let me execute this node just to give you an example. All right, input is nothing but all of this data which is coming through. And then we're using a map function, all right, to get an item and returning it. So this is another way to get all the data that is coming through, and we are using JSON JavaScript code node over here to do that. So the same thing which we did over here, extract fields using set node, or I like to call it expression because it's like an expression transformation in Informatica or Databricks or whatever, Tableau. And this is nothing but code node, which is, you can write any type of code over here, which is JavaScript or Python. It supports both. I have not tried Python yet, but I'm going to try it out. And JavaScript works for pretty much all of the data transformation that we have to do. So I've been using that, and that's the data node. Now let's see how do we extract individual items just the way we did this. So this was like what, extract individual fields. So we are going to do the same thing so that you see the difference and you can choose whatever you want. You can do a lot with a code node. However, some people say like use 10 set nodes and then your workflow will look big and you will be noted as expert. I don't believe in that. If you can, you know, put bunch of code from, like, if you can minimize the number of nodes, your workflow is also going to be faster. So my workflows are pretty simple with code nodes and very less nodes. So you'll see that. Now over here we have to wire it up, so I'm going to wire it up over here again. Let's execute. Voila. So this time we got the same thing. If you go over here, all right, if you see, we are doing the same thing. We got in this, we created an object or an array over here. So it's an array. So we create an array. Let is like to define a variable, array, anything. So we're defining an array called as items, and we are assigning all the data from this input to that items. Now everything that is over here is inside your items array. All right, how to extract the data out of that? The way I have done that is we are doing items 0. So this is the 0 item, which is the first item. If you know, 0 is the first item in an array, and this is an array. So there is 0 and there's 1. So we are extracting item0.json.workmail. So we created a new variable called as workmail, which was not there over here. If you see, there is only work. So I created a new variable called as workmail, and then I'm assigning the value of work over here, which is nothing but this. So if I execute this step, you see I get work. Now if you see, there is no workmail over here for item 1 because we did not. And when we returned entire item. So we returned everything that came through, plus we returned the new item. That's why you're seeing the old ones, which is in this table format, plus a new one. So I showed you how to extract an individual item from there. But let's go through it. Why did we not get over here? Because this code is commented out. If I uncomment it, if I do work, now you'll get the work email of this Bob, which is, this execute. Now we got contact.builder. So if I wanted like this one, which is the Bob's personal email, I'm going to say personal. If you execute that, I'm going to get Bob's personal email. And if you want, I can get Alice's email assigned to this because Alice is on number 0, if you remember. Now I got Alice's. So with Code Node, it gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of power. But as they say, like Spider-Man, with a lot of power, you get a lot of responsibility because you mess up something. It's very difficult because this is just 2 data sets like Alice and Bob. But once you get thousands of data sets and you start messing around, you have more than few fields that you need to create for ETL, it becomes messy. So do one thing, test it out, and then move on to the next step. That's how I would do it. So in this case, I'm going to do 1. So items 1 is 1, and then execute step. That's how you can use Code Node to extract individual data fields. I hope you liked it. Let's see what is the last part. The last part is using the split data transformation nodes, which is split out node and aggregate node. So what are we going to do in there? Let me copy paste my another thingy so that we don't waste time creating it. You're going to get this workflow, so do not worry about it. All right. In this, what are we doing? So we are asked, so hold on, I'll need a trigger node. So I'm going to use the same trigger node so that, because you cannot have multiple trigger nodes. All right. If you don't know how I'm doing this, I'm pressing space or command on my Mac, and then I'm using my scroll wheel to go up and down. Okay. All right. The first node is an HTTP node. HTTP node we covered in our previous course. If you don't know, please go back, refer to that. What are we doing? We're using a get method. Get is read, if you remember. And this is the URL. This is the URL from where we are getting the data. Let's see if we go and directly put it over here. We'll get preprint. We are getting a bunch of things. Excuse me. We are not using any kind of authentication, and when we execute this step, we will get the same results. All right, so what are we getting over here? Let's go over here. If you go to the JSON, we're getting an array of objects. This is the first object which says how much count we got, what is the next 20, which we pull 20 in, what are the next 20 data. The previous was null because this was the first pull, and these are results which are coming in an array again, which is another, and there are 20 items in that array. So one large item, but inside that there are results are 20 items. So let's say we need to extract this results. So we can use set node, we can use object, our JSON node, code node to get the data, or we can use another transformation tools that we are going to see right now. What the course wants us to do is use a split out node. So if you use a split out node, what does a split out node does? Let's see. So right now we're getting the results like over here. We use a split out node and fields to split out, like what fields do you want to split out? Extract. We are going to use the results field over here. Okay, we don't want to include anything else. Now, if you see only the results is extracted, we did not get that count, blah, 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 right? We only got the results field out here. And even in that results field, if you see clearly, initially everything was inside one. You could refer it directly in a set node. If I put a set node over here, hold on, I need to put like a set node. Delete, I'm going to put it over here. And if I need to add a field, I cannot. I can put a results over here, which is, an array. However, I cannot take the name. Actually I can, sorry. So execute step, but this is just one. So I can extract it this way. We saw it in the previous one. However, if you want it like extract one in one shot, you can use the split out node. Control Z. Execute. Now you got everything split out, and you can refer it this way as well. So in this case, you can add another edit node, set node, and now you can refer it this way as well. JSON name. So it's the same thing. Oh, sorry, my bad. Cool. So if you see over there, we had to refer it using like a square bracket because it was coming like that. Over here, we can directly refer it using a name. So subtle differences, but I'm going to delete this right now. We split out the name and the URL. So basically these two fields, we split it out. We created a name, we created a URL. So if we had more fields in over here, we could have split those out as well. That's the split node. Let's assume that you have already this data split and we want to merge it back into a single node. How are you going to do that? You guessed it right, merge node or aggregate node. So I call it aggregator because that's how we used to call it inside Informatica. Split node was basically a router. We are routing the data. No, sorry, split node, that is another. Switch node is a router. Split node is just splitting out the data. We didn't have split node in Informatica, but we had an aggregator data, and we have that node over there. So the way we do it is, now we got one JSON object again, which is the total JSON object which came in as it is. So if you see, this is table and this is one data object now. So all of this is merged into one data. So splits out, aggregates, but set back. What are we doing over here? If you say we are naming that field as data, I can say extracted data, and that should be fine as well. So it says extracted data, the name changed. And what do we want to include? We want to include all the fields, or we can say specific fields as well. So I've given an example of specific field over here where I've said fields to give, I just need the name field. If you do that, I'll get only the names, right? And if you want like just the URL, you can also get the URL, or you can create two fields as well, like add another field, but I don't want to do that right now, so we are going to do name, keep it like that. All right, so there is another way you can do this. So the split out we did over here, I can do the same thing using a code node. Boom. So you get a lot of flexibility. So if there is a native node, which is split out node, you can use that. If there is not a native node, 99 times out of 100, you can do it in the code node. So technically there could be a workflow where there are just code nodes, and it's a good workflow. Like a programmer can do that. I don't know what n8n's feeling is about that, but you can do that. So you can use the code node to split out the data. It's exactly the same behavior like we did in the split node. And this is another way of aggregating the data. In the previous one, we did all item data. In this, we are doing individual fields. I created a field, name aggregate. You can name it whatever you want. Execute, it will create an underscore, and that's how you got. If you want to put another field like a URL aggregate, excuse me, say URL aggregate, and input field is URL. That way you get two fields. Voila. This is what you cannot do over here. You cannot add another field called as URL to get the data, but with this you can do that. So in case you guys were having any issues with that, you can use this. With that said, I think we are at the end of this chapter, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.